Good evening, folks, and welcome back to the Bible in 365. Today is day number 48, and we're going to be discussing Numbers chapter 17 through Numbers chapter 20. You all know the drill. Let's get started. All right, folks, so picking up in Numbers chapter 17. Numbers chapter 17, the Lord is tired of the grumbling that is happening amongst the Israelites, and so he offers a solution to Moses. Each one of the ancestral tribes is to bring a staff, and the Lord states that the staff belonging to the man that he chooses will begin to sprout. So the man that is going to be chosen for leadership over Israel and as a priest. So they bring forth the staffs, and they're placed in front of the Lord, in front of the tent of meeting. And so the next day Moses goes in and he sees that the staff of Aaron had not only sprouted, but had budded, blossomed, and produced almonds. So above expectation. And so Moses brings this staff out to show the Israelites the Lord's choice. And so then the Lord commands Moses to put Aaron's staff in front of the Ark of Covenant, essentially to act as a sign or a warning to the Israelites so that they will not grumble or rebel or act as priests unless they have actually been called and chosen by God for that role. Now, verse 12 of this chapter, of chapter 17, exemplifies the cries of the Israelites and their belief in their impending doom. Moving forward to Numbers chapter 18. Now, Numbers chapter 18 outlines the duties of the priests and the Levites. The Lord speaks to Aaron and speaks to him regarding the responsibilities of the Levites and the priests. There are certain responsibilities that the Levites are able to join in and help him with, like care for the tent. But there are specific responsibilities, like caring for the sanctuary, the altar, and the furnishings within the sanctuary that belong to Aaron alone. Now, the remainder of chapter 18 deals with offerings for priests and Levites. Aaron and his sons are in charge of all the offerings, and they receive a portion of the offerings that the Israelites bring before the Lord. This includes everything that is devoted to the Lord. The firstborn, both human and animal, will result in a redemption tax. Now, it notes here within the chapter that the Levites won't have an inheritance in terms of land when they enter the promised land because the Lord is their inheritance. But also the tithes of the Israel are to go to the Levites because of the work they do in serving within the tent of meeting. So essentially the Lord is meeting the needs and providing for the Levites as they serve and work for him. Moving forward to chapter 19. Within chapter 19, it deals with the rituals concerning the cleaning of water or cleansing water. So the chapter opens with the killing of a red heifer outside the camp. The heifer then is completely burned. The priest who performs this ceremony is to return and bathe and wash his clothes, and he will remain ceremonially unclean until the evening. The ashes of the heifer are supposed to be then collected by a man who is clean, and these ashes are supposed to be mixed with water, and they are going to be used as a part of a future ritual for ceremonial cleaning. Now, chapter 19 also discusses how people who touch a human corpse, bone, or grave is considered unclean. Anyone who enters a tent where someone has died is also unclean, and they're unclean for 7 days. But within this chapter, there is hope that is presented because people can be sprinkled with the cleansing water throughout the 7 days, and they will return at the end of those 7 days to a state of ritual purity or ceremonial cleanliness. Now, if they don't go through this ritual of being cleansed, then they will be cut off from the congregation of Israel. Moving forward into Numbers chapter 20. Within this chapter, it opens up, and the beginning informs us that the community of the Israelites have now arrived in the desert of Zin. This is where Miriam dies and is buried. Also here within this desert, there is no water because there isn't a well. And so the Israelites grumble and complain. Now, here the Lord gives Moses instructions to speak to a rock and how the rock is going to pour out its water by simply Moses speaking to it. And so verse 11 tells us that Moses strikes the rock twice and water pours out. Now, this was an act of disobedience. because he was only supposed to speak to the rock, not strike it. And so verse 12 tells us that the Lord informs him that this act of disobedience, this lack of trust in the Lord, has consequences. Moses and Aaron will not be allowed to bring the community of Israel into the promised land. And it also, the text tells us that this land where the Israelites and Moses are quarreling with the Lord is called Meribah. Now, verses 14 through 20 tell us that the king of Edom is not allowing the Israelites passage through their land. And so the Edomites threaten the Israelites with war and an army, so the Israelites have to turn away, and they can't take passage even through the King's Road or a traveling passage road there within the land. Now, verses 22 to 30 recount the death of Aaron. It says that his priestly garments are passed on to his son Eleazar up on Mount Hor. Aaron dies at the top of the mountain, and Moses and Eleazar return, and the Israelites mourn Aaron for 30 days. Here we see the fulfillment of God's word or promise that Aaron and Moses would not enter into the promised land because of their disobedience. And so we see that Aaron, in fact, does not enter into the promised land because he dies here at this mountain. With this morning is where we end our reading for tonight. All right, folks, I hope that you will join me tomorrow for day number 49 as we explore Numbers chapter 21 through Numbers chapter 23. As always, folks, God bless.